Hello, I'm Kimberly, and welcome to the weekend edition of the Native News Update. It's Friday, August 30th. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at IndianCountryTV.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. The UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination expresses their concern to Washington regarding the potential discriminatory impact of the construction of the U.S.-Mexico fence on indigenous communities living on both sides of the border. The chairperson of the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination says this construction harms their lands, ecosystems, and their cultural lives and traditions, including their access to tribal lands located north and south of the border and to resources required for traditional ceremonies. However, the wall has not been built in more prosperous and wealthy areas like the Gulf River Bend Resort on the Texas border. The complaint against the racist nature of the wall has been presented by several ethnic Indian activists of the Lapin Apache community, together with the Faculty of Law of the University of Texas, to the United Nations, and to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. It is in response the UN acknowledges that the Department of Homeland Security has reportedly waived 36 federal and state laws to clear the way for the construction of the wall, among them the Endangered Species Act, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, the American Indian Freedom Act, and the Administrative Procedure Act. Native American students will once again have an advocate at the Oregon Department of Education after nearly 2 decades without one. April Campbell will take up the position of the Indian Education Specialist with the state in September. Campbell previously led the Tribal Education Department for Oregon's federally recognized tribes. She says the high dropout rate of Native American students will be one of her top issues. The North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission will include a member of the Eastern Band of Cherokee for the first time in the Commission's nearly 70-year history. Principal Chief Michael Hicks, appointed by House Speaker Tom Tillis, was sworn in this week as an at-large commissioner. The 19-member board establishes policy and regulations for hunting, fishing, and boating activities in North Carolina. Hicks said he was asked by the new administration if he was interested in serving on the state commission and said his first choice was wildlife. Hicks will serve until June 30th, 2015. As an at-large commissioner, Hicks will not represent any one district, but will help to set rules and regulations for the entire state. MicroGREEN polymers, a company with a distinct Pacific Northwest mix of technology, innovators, customers, and investors, now including 2 American Indian groups, which represent a new source of venture capital and private equity nationally. The manufacturer is raising $10 million from investors including the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Round. The financing is part of a $20 million round, which began early this year with a $5 million investment from the Stillaguamish tribe and is expecting to close with another $5 million investment, also from American Indian tribes. The company plans to use the cash to expand its line of recycled and recyclable hot and cold beverage cups and to increase production capacity. The Stillaguamish and Grand Round are part of a growing number of American Indian tribes putting their newfound casino wealth to work in more sophisticated ways, including through direct investments in local companies focused on long-term stability, among other values that match their own. 24 Northwest tribes are working with the University of Washington in Bethel to create tribal-centered academic lessons for high school students. The Tribal Education Network Initiative will work to integrate tribal stories and values in a program that aims to get more Native American students to college and to help them earn college credentials while in high school. The project is still very much in the early stages. The goal is to create a pilot project with 60-80 students next year in several tribal communities. Leaders of the initiative envision incorporating tribal values by teaching academic subjects using real-life scenarios developed by experts from the tribes and the UW. The scenarios, called cases, will be assembled into casebooks. Completing a casebook in high school may lead to a college certificate, and a certificate in turn will lead towards completing a college-level course and ultimately a degree. The initiative will involve hands-on projects and multimedia components, and tribal stories will be central to many of the courses. And that's another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of Native News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining me and have a grand day.